Joining me in studio is Rob Parsons, our Chief Foreign Editor, who's just returned from Kiev. Firstly, Rob, more and more details are emerging of atrocities in Ukraine. We've got the situation with those mass graves in Mariupol, and this Friday the UN mission to the town of Bucha has documented the killing of some 50 civilians.
Yeah.
It's early days yet, obviously, but in terms of trying to establish the extent of what's occurred, it's almost impossible at this stage in the war, isn't it?
It is. Unfortunately, and that package we've just seen from Mariupol underlines the point, even more so in areas which are under Russian control. We suspect there have been atrocities in Mariupol, mostly through the indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas, which in itself a war crime. And as we heard there, 9,000 people maybe, according to the city deputy mayor, up to 20,000 people. Outside Kiev, where I was, in towns like Bucha, Irpin, Borodyanka, Makariv, a certain amount of work has already been done. We've heard about that description from the Office of the Human Rights of the United Nations, talking about 50 people already confirmed as being illegally murdered, illegally killed in Bucha alone, which is not a big town. Irpin is exactly the same. I spoke to the chief of police of the Kiev region just a few days ago, and he told me that exactly the same sort of thing is happening there. Maybe as many as hundreds of people murdered by the Russian forces when they were occupying those areas. And it's the same everywhere where the Russians were entrenched in those weeks when they were trying to surround Kiev. International prosecutors are now helping the Ukrainians come to solidify the evidence, to make sure that the bodies, when they're recovered, are sent to Kiev for forensic examination, and that all the evidence is rigorously kept, maintained, logged away for the day when it will be possible to bring, hopefully, criminal charges against those who are responsible.
Now, you were in Kiev at the beginning of the war. You went back some weeks later. Going back into Kiev, what was the city like? Had it changed substantially since your previous journey?
It has. When I was there, people were leaving, essentially, the first time. With the start of the war, people were panicked. Although a lot of people did choose to stay on, and many chose to stay on and fight or join the volunteers, the Territorial Defence Force, or to help supply the troops with various different things like clothing, food, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people did leave. Over 1 million people left Kiev, and the city quickly emptied. The roads were packed with people trying to get out. The situation today is very much different. People are starting to come back, although the mayor of the city, Vitaly Klitschko, is urging people not to come back at this stage because it's still dangerous. There's still the possibility that fighting might be renewed. There is still the possibility, the reality, rather, I should say, of missiles landing on the city. That whilst I was there, we were coming back into the city from the northwest, and a missile landed sufficiently close to us for us to feel the shock waves in the car as we were going through. So it gives you an idea, that although you do have a feeling of safety in Kiev because the Russian troops aren't there anymore, you never know when something is going to drop out of the sky, because the Russians are trying to destroy Ukrainian infrastructure right across the country, from Lviv in the far west to 1,200 kilometers away in the Donbass. So things have changed. Shops are beginning to open. Restaurants are opening. In many respects, all the signs of normality are there. But you do feel all the time there's that tension that's there. Also, you really feel that this is a society in its totality which is mobilized to resist the Russian invasion.
And that's what I want to ask you next, is the Ukrainians who stay behind and are still there. What is their mood like? And if you could just briefly tell us.
Yeah, I think if you spoke to anybody who's been in Ukraine and come back, they would say to you the same thing, and that is that the mood is incredibly determined. There's no sort of false optimism or anything like that. People understand absolutely the size of the task against them, and they are desperate for all the aid that they can get, whether it's military or whether it's humanitarian, because they need everything at the moment from the West. But they are absolutely singularly determined to resist the Russians, and they will tell you that they will win this war, come what may. It is an astonishing achievement, I would say, of Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, that he has so consolidated the Ukrainian nation. I mean, he said he was coming, or the Russian army was coming to Ukraine to liberate it. To liberate it from whom? Apparently Russians are being oppressed. Today, you'll be hard put to find a Russian speaker, native Russian speaker in Ukraine, who did not detest Vladimir Putin and wants to see them all thrown out of the country.
Rob Parsons, thank you so much.